I'm Sean from Corman Coffee. Today I want to talk to you about 3 items that you should have if you want to take your coffee experience to the next level at home. The first thing I want to talk about, and what I and a lot of other people consider to be the most important thing, is a burr grinder. Now, the reason why we talk about burr grinders being the most important thing is because they help you make consistently flavorful and efficient brews. The reason they do that is because burr grinders, unlike blade grinders, help you grind your coffee beans to the same size, meaning you'll be able to brew an efficient cup of coffee without over extracting some beans and under extracting some beans. The goal is to have all the beans extracted as equally as possible. What you want to do basically is have everything ground down to a uniform size for your coffee or your espresso shot. So what we have here is 3 different burr grinders that I want to show you. This one is a Compresso model. I think I bought this one from like Bed Bath & Beyond somewhere, and I had it in 2013. And it's 2022 now, and it still does the job. It works. I keep it clean, I maintain it, I take the top off, I clean the burrs out and everything you're supposed to do. And all of these will tell you about cleaning cycles and how to get them all clean. However, I have recently stepped up because I'm trying to step up a little bit more in the product that I use. So recently I just got this Bodum Bistro grinder, and it has a lot more settings and can dial in a little bit more efficiently than this original one that I had here. So it has even the size settings for your pour over, for your French press, for your drip coffee. You can even get it down to a pretty decent espresso. On top of that, it has a time grind too. So you can set a timer, and if you know about how much the weight of the coffee beans that you want, say 18 grams, 17 grams, you can set the timer to all you need to do is press the button and it will grind for a certain amount of time, and you should be pretty close to that weight that you want to get. The last one, this one is really a step up from the first 2, but I only use it for one reason. I only use it for espresso. It's a Eureka Mignon Kronos grinder. It has very delicate step settings when you come to adjusting the grind size, and it has a timer on the side also, so you can do the exact same thing. Now, this one costs a lot more than these 2. In fact, it probably costs more than these 2 combined. This one was probably $40, I think. This one was $99, and if I get the link from Amazon, I can put the link in the description for you. This one, I got it, and it was under $200. It wasn't like $199. It was probably a little less. But I only use this for espresso. I set it to the size that I want, I leave it there, and I can get repeated results every single time, almost with any of these. This one is going to be really repeated. This one is a great for home use. This one, it'll do the job, it's just not as great, but having a grinder is definitely better than no grinder at all. Even the less expensive model like this will still make your coffee taste better than having no grinder at all. So the number one thing you need to understand if you're going to buy anything to step up your game is to get you a burr grinder and not a blade grinder, and don't buy your coffee that's already pre-ground. You want to be able to grind your coffee right before you use it, or grind your espresso right before you pull that espresso shot. The second most important thing, if you can afford to get it to up your home coffee experience, would be to get you a scale. And it's simple. Scales are designed to make measuring coffee easier. Most people like to say, oh, we're going to cook with a cup, or we're going to do a half a cup. It's far better to use weight versus volume. And I'll tell you why. 1 cup of coffee beans will not weigh the same because coffee beans have different densities depending on how they're roasted and the variety of the coffee bean that you have. So 1 cup every single day will get you a different weight. But 15 grams of coffee beans will always be 15 grams of coffee beans. You will have a much better consistency when you're doing ratios like a 1:15 or 1:16 or 1:17. You can more accurately predict the flavor and the outcome of your coffee because you use the exact weight as opposed to the volume of the coffee. Which is why having a scale makes all the difference in the world. So it's pretty simple when you're talking about a scale. You want one that has a tare function, meaning when you put your portafilter on it, it's going to give you a weight for that portafilter. But if you want to know exactly how many grams that you put in, you hit the tare function. It zeroes out the weight of the coffee portafilter and only gives you the weight of the beans that you put in, which is exactly what you're looking for. It's also good that your scale have a timer on it. It's not mandatory, but it's good because sometimes when you're pulling a shot of coffee or you're doing a pour over, you want to know how long you've been pulling that shot for espresso, or how long your water has been steeping when you do a French press or a pour over, something like that, that is time based. So you can find scales all over, man. They probably run anywhere from 25 bucks to 100 bucks, but they all should do the same thing. They should have a tare function and, if possible, a timer on it. And make sure your scale can get down to like the 10th of a gram so that you can really try to dial in that weight for the coffee beans that you have. The last piece of equipment I recommend, if you can afford it, is to get you a kettle. Now, what a kettle, and more specifically a gooseneck kettle, one that comes out with a spout, will do is it allows you to have more control over the pouring process. And if you're doing something like a pour over or a French press, you don't want to just dump all the water in there and then see what happens. With a pour over such as this, you get a timed pour. So you want to add, for certain pour over recipes that they call them, you want to add so much water in so much amount of time. Say for example, if you want to do a bloom, then you might pour 50 grams of water in here and let it steep for 30 seconds before you start adding anything else. So this kettle, more specifically a gooseneck kettle with a long spout like this, allows you to be able to start the timer and then pour with precision. You don't want to pour too much or pour too little. So there, as in this, I can go around with precision and I can pour my 50 grams of water in here, and I have my timer set on my scale so I can see exactly how much water I poured in there based on weight and how long it's been. So it's been 30 seconds. Now I can continue on with the pour based on the recipe that I'm going to use for any particular pour over model. And again, this is very simplistic. I don't want anybody to try to make this, for people who haven't done it, I don't want to try to make it too complex for you. You can go into so many more variables based on your grinder, based on your scale, based on your kettle, based on the water that you use, based on so many different things. But what I want you to do is just starting off, make it as simple as possible so that you can make great coffee repeatedly every single time and get the results that you should be getting and not hoping. Like if you got pre-ground coffee, you cannot get the exact same repeatable results every day because the coffee that comes pre-ground from the store may not be ground for the right size and consistency that you need for an espresso, for a pour over, for a French press. Having that scale will allow you to really dial in the weight. And having a kettle, more specifically a gooseneck kettle, will allow you to accurately and precisely do a nice pour over for whichever brewing method that you choose. So, just a quick recap. The most important thing, if you can do any one thing, is to get you a burr grinder. After that, work your way up to a scale. And then finally, work your way up to a gooseneck kettle that you can use. After that, then you can start tweaking all these other hundreds of variables if you really want to be a coffee snob or if you really want to take your game to the next level. But these are the 3 things I and other people would recommend if you just want to get a solid foundation for your home coffee or espresso game. I'm Sean with Corman Coffee. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.